The humans had been traveling for months through the cold emptiness of space, their ship cutting silently through the darkness. Every star outside the viewport reminded them how small they were, how fragile their mission was. They were not explorers. In search of adventure, they were survivors, hoping to find allies in a galaxy that had grown increasingly hostile. Their previous encounters with other civilizations had been mixed at best. Some had offered aid, but others had attacked without warning. Each experience had left them cautious, even fearful. Yet despite the risks, hope kept them moving forward. The planet they were approaching was unlike any they had seen before. From orbit, its surface seemed both beautiful and intimidating. Mountains, twisted like jagged teeth. Rivers glinted in colors that no human eyes had names for, and forests stretched across plains that shimmered under a greenish sun. Sensors indicated signs of life, but nothing moved in the patterns the humans expected. The instruments recorded faint energy signatures, subtle, almost imperceptible, hinting at the presence of intelligent beings. The humans had heard rumors from distant systems, stories of a civilization capable of unimaginable technological feats, peaceful and wise, yet hidden from outsiders. If these stories were true, this planet might hold the help they so desperately needed. As the ship descended, the crew gathered near the observation deck. Commander Harris, a man in his mid-40s with streaks of gray in his hair, stared silently at the unfolding landscape. He had led many missions before, but this one felt different. There was no clear enemy yet, no immediate danger, only the unknown, and yet the unknown carried its own kind of threat. "Stay alert," he said quietly, more to himself than to anyone else. "This planet may be beautiful, but beauty can hide danger." The humans touched down in a wide clearing near a cluster of structures that appeared to be built from an unfamiliar metal. The buildings were tall, sleek, and curved in ways that defied the usual principles of architecture the humans knew. Some seemed to float slightly above the ground, their surfaces glowing faintly in the dim light of the alien sun. As they disembarked, the team's boots made soft sounds on the strange, slightly spongy soil. The air was breathable, but carried a subtle scent that reminded some of wet stone and flowers combined, a mixture that was both unfamiliar and oddly comforting. Scout Lieutenant Mira led the first exploration team. She moved carefully, scanning the environment with portable sensors and recording every detail. Her eyes, sharp and focused, darted from one structure to the next. "There's no immediate life form detected," she reported, her voice steady despite the tension that gripped her. "But the energy readings suggest the place isn't abandoned. Someone or something is here." The crew split into small groups, each assigned a sector to examine. Engineers analyzed the buildings, noting their advanced design and the faint hum of energy within them. Scientists collected samples from the soil and nearby plants, curious about their unusual biochemistry. Every step, every sound, seemed amplified in the quiet, alien world. It was as if the planet itself was watching, waiting to see what the humans would do next. Despite the tension, moments of human connection emerged. Around the campfire that night, they shared stories of home, of loved ones left behind, and of battles fought on distant worlds. Laughter occasionally broke the silence, though it was always tinged with nervousness. They joked about how the planet looked like a painting someone had made for the galaxy, but deep down, each of them wondered if beauty was a warning rather than a welcome. Meanwhile, sensors picked up faint movements beyond the perimeter of their camp. Shadows flitted between trees that were taller than any on Earth. Strange sounds, neither animal nor mechanical, echoed through the forested hills. The humans were cautious but fascinated. Could these be the rumored inhabitants, or something else entirely? Speculation ran through the crew like electricity. Some argued that the beings were intelligent, perhaps observing from a distance to decide if the humans were a threat. Others feared they were predators, waiting for the right moment to strike. Commander Harris called the crew together for a briefing. He spoke calmly but firmly, emphasizing the importance of patience. "We are here to seek allies, not to provoke them," he said. "We don't know what or who lives here. Every action we take matters. Approach carefully, record everything, and stay together. Above all, remember why we are here." His words reminded the crew of their mission's urgency. Survival depended on forming alliances, not making enemies. As night deepened, the humans settled into their temporary shelters. Above them, the twin moons cast a pale glow over the alien landscape, making familiar shapes appear strange and unfamiliar. Some crew members stayed awake, watching the horizon for any sign of movement, while others tried to sleep, the weight of uncertainty pressing on their minds. Dreams mingled with reality. Some imagined friendly beings stepping forward to welcome them, while others imagined shadowy figures waiting in the darkness. By the following morning, the humans had begun to establish routines. Scouts patrolled. The edges of the clearing, engineers strengthened their temporary shelters, and scientists continued their analyses. Despite the unknowns, they found a rhythm, a way to cope with the tension. They were explorers and survival required both caution and courage. Every small victory, finding fresh water, identifying edible plants, or mapping the terrain, felt monumental. Yet even as they worked, a quiet unease lingered. The planet seemed to shift subtly around them. Sounds they hadn't noticed before, like low hums, rustling in the distance, and flashes of movement, reminded them that they were not alone. And while hope for allies had brought them here, they could not ignore the possibility that the first beings they encountered might not be friendly. Still, hope persisted. The humans clung to the belief that somewhere beyond the forest, hidden within the strange and beautiful structures, were allies who could help them endure the challenges ahead. They had traveled across countless star systems, faced threats they could barely comprehend, and survived against odds that seemed impossible. This mission, like the ones before, would test their courage, their ingenuity, and their trust in one another. And as they prepared for what lay ahead, each member of the team silently promised to face the unknown together, come what may. The first part of their journey was ending, but the true test had only just begun. In the heart of the alien world, hope and danger existed side by side, and the humans would soon learn that one often led directly to the other. The humans had barely begun to explore the alien world when subtle signs of something unusual began to appear. At first, it was small and easy to overlook. A faint glimmer across the distant hills, a sudden rustling of leaves when no wind was blowing, and strange patterns in the soil that didn't match anything the scientists had seen before. Lieutenant Mira noticed the first anomaly during a morning patrol. Her scanner had picked up brief energy pulses coming from the edge of a dense forest. The pulses were irregular, almost like signals, but they didn't match any known technology. Mira knelt to examine the soil and found unusual markings, carved deeply into the ground, as if a heavy hand had pressed shapes into the earth. Back at the camp, Mira shared her observations with Commander Harris and the rest of the crew. "These signals are unlike anything we've encountered before," she said. "They could be sentient life forms, or some kind of automated system left behind. Either way, we need to proceed carefully." The commander nodded. He understood the excitement in Mira's voice, but knew better than to let curiosity override caution. The humans were far from home, and a single misstep could lead to disaster. As the day progressed, other crew members noticed oddities as well. The forests were alive in ways that did not match Earth's ecosystems. Trees bent slightly, as if moving to observe the humans. Vines shifted subtly, and certain plants seemed to glow faintly when someone approached. Sensors detected small bursts. of energy, disappearing before anyone could fully analyze them. The team began to realize that this planet was not just inhabited, it was aware. Some whispered that the land itself might be watching them, studying their every move. Tension began to grow among the humans. Opinions were divided on how to proceed. Some argued that they should make a visible gesture of peace to the mysterious inhabitants, hoping to encourage contact. Others feared that revealing themselves could provoke hostility. "We don't know what we're dealing with," said Dr. Lang, the team's lead scientist. "These signs could mean intelligence, or they could be a defense mechanism of the planet itself. One wrong move and we might trigger something dangerous." Despite the tension, the humans pressed on. Scouts ventured deeper into the forest, documenting every sound, movement, and pattern. They discovered structures partially hidden by thick foliage, their shapes more intricate than the ones they had first seen near the landing site. The surfaces reflected light in strange geometric patterns, creating illusions that made it difficult to judge size or distance. Lieutenant Mira took careful measurements, noting that the architecture suggested intelligence far beyond human comprehension. The structures were not just built, they were grown, shaped from materials that seemed to respond to touch and energy. Late that evening, one of the scouts reported seeing movement. A shadow, unlike any creature the humans had studied, slipped between the trees. It moved with incredible speed, appearing and disappearing before anyone could get a clear view. The team tried to track it with sensors, but the readings were inconsistent, almost as if the shadow was capable of bending reality itself. Fear rippled through the camp, but curiosity kept them on edge. They needed answers, and answers required risk. Small moments of tension led to larger questions. Were the aliens intelligent, or were they some form of advanced predator? Could the strange energy pulses be communication signals, or warnings to stay away? Every discovery seemed to contradict the last, leaving the humans unsure of how to interpret what they saw. They debated late into the night, poring over data and arguing over strategy. Some crew members grew restless, itching to make contact. Others suggested laying low and observing from a distance, hoping to understand the behaviors of these unseen beings before revealing themselves. The next day, the humans discovered carvings on stones near a shallow river. The symbols were intricate, almost like writing, but entirely unfamiliar. Dr. Lang examined them closely. "It looks like a form of communication," she said. "But it doesn't resemble any code or language we've encountered. Whoever made these is intelligent and probably advanced." The team speculated about what the symbols could mean. Perhaps they were warnings, directions, or even invitations. The ambiguity made everyone uneasy. As they explored further, they noticed that the environment itself seemed to respond to their presence. Leaves rustled even in still air, water rippled in patterns that did not match wind or currents, and faint lights danced in the shadows between trees. It was as if the planet had its own consciousness, observing and reacting to the humans. Some crew members began to feel a creeping sense of unease, a feeling that they were intruding in a place far older and wiser than themselves. Commander Harris noticed the anxiety and reminded everyone to stay professional. "We are here for a purpose," he said. "Observe, learn, and record. Fear is natural, but it cannot control our actions." By the end of the second day, it was clear that the humans were not alone. The signs of intelligence were everywhere: symbols, signals, movement, and strange energy patterns. But still, no one had made direct contact. The suspense weighed heavily on the team. Sleep was difficult, with everyone alert for the slightest sound or shadow. Around the campfires, conversations were tense but animated, filled with speculation and theories. Some crew members imagined friendly beings stepping out to meet them, while others feared that something far more dangerous lurked just beyond their vision. Lieutenant Mira suggested sending a small team to a clearing where energy pulses were strongest. The idea was met with mixed reactions. Some thought it was a necessary step to establish communication, while others worried it might provoke hostility. Commander Harris ultimately approved a cautious approach, emphasizing that the team should remain visible, avoid weapons, and attempt non-threatening gestures. The humans would have one chance to make the right impression, and failure could mean disaster. As the team prepared for the venture, the planet seemed to intensify its presence. Shadows lengthened unnaturally, sounds became sharper, and the energy, pulses grew stronger. Even the most experienced crew members felt a chill of anticipation. For all their training and preparation, they had never faced an environment this alive, this aware, and this unpredictable. Every step forward carried the weight of uncertainty. The humans' first full day of exploration ended with no direct encounter, but the clues they had gathered left them both excited and apprehensive. They had seen enough to know that intelligent life existed, yet the lack of contact meant that danger could be lurking anywhere. As they prepared for rest, they reminded each other that patience and caution were just as vital as bravery. Tomorrow would be the day they would step closer to the truth of the planet's mysteries, unsure whether they would find allies or threats beyond imagination. The humans had hoped for allies, but the moment of truth arrived in a way none of them had anticipated. They were advancing toward the clearing where energy pulses had been strongest, carefully moving as a small, cautious team led by Lieutenant Mira. Their steps were deliberate, their scanners active and every sense alert. The air felt charged, almost vibrating with the unseen presence of whatever inhabited the planet. The strange forest stretched endlessly around them, trees twisting toward the sky as if to observe their intrusion. The shadows were deep and shifting, and a faint metallic hum seemed to resonate from the ground itself. For hours, the humans had been moving cautiously, documenting every symbol, every unusual formation of rocks, and every shift in the environment. Then, without warning, the first sign of true danger appeared. A ripple in the air, almost like a distortion, caught Mira's eye. She froze, signaling the others to halt. Before anyone could react further, figures emerged from the dense foliage. Massive, imposing, and unlike anything the humans had ever encountered. They were the Deathworlders. The creatures were immense, standing far taller than the humans. Their skin was a textured gray, almost stone-like, and their eyes glowed faintly with an amber light that seemed to pierce through the dim forest. Every movement was deliberate, slow but impossibly powerful. The Deathworlders carried no visible weapons, yet their presence alone radiated threat. Rumors across the galaxy had described them as nearly unstoppable survivors of the harshest worlds, beings capable of thriving in conditions that would kill most life forms. Seeing them in person was far more terrifying than any rumor could convey. Panic surged through the human team. Mira's first instinct was to signal retreat, but she knew that any sudden movement could trigger aggression. The humans froze, breath caught in their throats as the Deathworlders approached. Their footsteps, though silent, made the ground tremble slightly. The human scanners went haywire, unable to process the raw energy radiating from the creatures. Commander Harris's voice came through their communicators, calm but tense. "Hold position. Do not provoke them. Observe and be ready to move." The Deathworlders did not attack immediately. Instead, they circled the humans, assessing them with an intelligence that was unmistakable. Their heads moved independently, scanning every angle, and their eyes seemed to read the humans' intentions. The team could feel the weight of scrutiny, as if the creatures were deciding whether they were a threat worth eliminating. Some of the humans whispered prayers under their breath, hoping that reason, not rage, would guide the Deathworlders' actions. Suddenly, a faint signal echoed through the forest, one of the energy pulses from earlier. The Deathworlders paused, reacting instantly. Their focus shifted, and the humans realized that the pulses were not random. They were a form of communication, perhaps between the Deathworlders themselves or with the alien civilization the humans had been seeking. The creatures moved with precision, positioning themselves strategically, demonstrating coordination and intelligence that far surpassed anything the humans had faced. The humans attempted to slowly back away, keeping their movements minimal. Yet even this cautious retreat was fraught with tension. The Deathworlders mirrored their actions, maintaining a perfect balance between pursuit and observation. The forest seemed to come alive around them, leaves brushing against skin as if nudging them along, and the shadows deepened unnaturally. The humans realized that survival would not be simple. They could not rely on firepower or speed alone. Their only chance was strategy, cooperation, and quick thinking. During this tense standoff, the humans made their first attempt at communication. Mira raised a small flag, a simple gesture used in their training to indicate peaceful intent. The Deathworlders paused again, tilting their massive heads in a motion almost like curiosity. It was a small victory, a fleeting sign that these creatures were not mindless killers. Still, the humans remained acutely aware that one wrong move could trigger a deadly response. As the hours dragged on, the humans observed more about the Deathworlders' behavior. They were highly organized, each movement calculated and purposeful. The creatures were not aggressive without cause, but their sheer size and presence made any interaction dangerous. The humans noted that the Deathworlders seemed attuned to the environment, moving seamlessly through the forest without leaving a trace. Every step the humans took required careful consideration. Commander Harris called for a regroup. The humans retreated slowly to a more open area near a rocky outcrop. They huddled together, taking stock of what they had learned. "We cannot fight them," Harris said, his voice low but firm. "We can only observe, learn, and adapt. We need to understand their behavior if we hope to survive, and if there are allies on this planet, we need to find them before the Deathworlders do." In the midst of the chaos, small acts of courage emerged. Mira ventured slightly closer to document one of the Deathworlders' movements, risking exposure to study its patterns. The engineers worked quickly to adapt their equipment, attempting to boost sensors and shields without drawing attention. Every human was acutely aware of the fine line they were walking between survival and disaster. By evening, the humans had retreated to a temporary camp, their hearts pounding with both fear and adrenaline. They discussed what they had witnessed, piecing together behaviors, potential weaknesses, and patterns in the Deathworlders' movements. One thing became clear. These were not mindless monsters. They were highly intelligent predators, capable of observing, assessing, and adapting. The humans would need to do the same if they hoped to survive. As night fell, the forest seemed to hold its breath. The humans kept watch, knowing that the Deathworlders could return at any moment. They strengthened their perimeter with makeshift barriers, quietly sharing observations and forming strategies. Some spoke in hushed tones about what they might find deeper in the forest, beyond the immediate threat. Could the alien civilization they had hoped to contact exist here, hidden from view? And if so, could it offer protection? Or had the Deathworlders already claimed dominion over the land? The first direct encounter had shattered the humans' sense of security. Their hope for allies had not vanished, but it was now tempered by a sobering reality. The Deathworlders were powerful, relentless, and aware. Every step forward would require courage, intelligence, and unity. And yet, despite the danger, the humans could not give up. Survival demanded that they continue, that they learn as much as possible about the planet and its inhabitants before making further decisions. By the end of that long day, the humans had endured their first real test. Fear and awe mixed in equal measure, leaving them both shaken and determined. They knew that the coming days would challenge them in ways they had never imagined. But if they could navigate this encounter, if they could understand the Deathworlders' behavior and continue toward potential allies, they might still find hope in this alien world. Hope that had brought them here in the first place. After the terrifying encounter with the Deathworlders, the humans were shaken but not defeated. Commander Harris gathered the team near a rocky outcrop that offered a safe vantage point over the surrounding forest. The sun was low, casting long shadows across the alien terrain, and the forest seemed unusually quiet, as if it too was watching the humans regroup. The team was exhausted from constant vigilance, yet they knew rest was essential for survival. They had faced a force unlike anything they had ever seen, and surviving the next encounter would require careful planning and cooperation. The first step was to take stock of resources. Supplies were limited and the humans could not afford to waste time or energy. Engineers inspected their equipment, making quick repairs and enhancements. Portable sensors were recalibrated to detect the faint energy signatures the Deathworlders seemed to emit. Communication devices were tested repeatedly, hoping to maintain a connection with one another even if the forest or the creatures interfered. Every improvement, no matter how small, increased the team's chances of survival. While the engineers worked, scientists and scouts analyzed the patterns they had observed from the Deathworlders. Lieutenant Mira had taken extensive notes during the encounter, documenting everything from movement patterns to behavior around energy pulses. Dr. Lang and the others pored over the data, looking for weaknesses or predictable routines. They noticed, for example, that the Deathworlders seemed to respond strongly to sudden movements and loud noises, but were less alert to slow, deliberate gestures. They also observed that the creatures paused when certain energy pulses echoed through the forest, suggesting that these signals were a form of internal communication. With these observations, the humans began to form a strategy. Direct confrontation was impossible. The Deathworlders were too strong, too fast, and too intelligent. Instead, the team focused on survival through adaptation. They would move carefully, avoid unnecessary risks, and use the environment to their advantage. Natural barriers, such as cliffs, rivers, and dense vegetation, could provide protection and concealment. They experimented with small traps and diversions, not to harm the Deathworlders, but to test reactions and create safe pathways for exploration. The humans also knew that time was a critical factor. If there were other intelligent beings on the planet, as they hoped, contact would need to happen before the Deathworlders interfered. Every moment spent surviving the forest, observing the creatures, and mapping the terrain was a step closer to potential allies. The tension was immense. The team had to remain constantly vigilant while maintaining hope that the mission's primary goal, forming alliances, was still achievable. Interpersonal dynamics played a major role during this time. Fear and stress tested each member's resolve. Some grew anxious, questioning whether they were capable of enduring the constant threat. Others, however, rose to the occasion, offering courage, ingenuity, and quick thinking. Mira, for example, risked venturing closer to the edge of the forest to document the Deathworlders' movements, carefully using the terrain for cover. Engineers devised creative methods to camouflage equipment and create makeshift signals that mimicked the forest's energy patterns, keeping the Deathworlders unaware of their presence. These small acts of bravery bolstered morale, reminding the team that survival was not only about strength, but also about unity and intelligence. The humans quickly realized that observation was as important as action. By studying the Deathworlders from a safe distance, they began to anticipate patterns. They noticed that the creatures traveled along certain paths during specific times of day and reacted predictably to energy pulses. This information allowed the humans to plan short excursions into previously unexplored areas of the forest. Each trip brought new discoveries: hidden clearings, unusual flora, and faint structures partially concealed by vegetation. Some of these findings hinted at the alien civilization the humans had hoped to contact. Perhaps they were hidden, observing from a distance, waiting to see whether the humans were a threat or a potential ally. Every day was a test of endurance. The humans faced environmental challenges: the uneven terrain, unpredictable weather, and unfamiliar plant life, all while remaining alert for Deathworlder activity. Nights were particularly tense. The forest seemed alive in ways that humans could barely comprehend. Strange sounds echoed between the trees, and faint glows appeared deep in the shadows. Each member of the team took turns keeping watch, ensuring that no one was caught off guard. Sleep was minimal, yet every human understood that alertness was essential for survival. Despite the danger, moments of hope emerged. Occasionally, the humans caught glimpses of patterns in the forest that suggested intelligent design. Some formations resembled structures, though they were partially hidden or overgrown. Small energy pulses appeared in intervals that seemed purposeful. These signs hinted that the alien civilization they sought was nearby, watching, or perhaps even guiding events subtly to test them. The humans clung to these hints as evidence that they were not entirely alone, that allies might exist if they could endure the trials set before them. By the fourth day, the humans began to coordinate, small expeditions deeper into the forest. They moved in teams of 2 or 3, each pair responsible for documenting new discoveries and observing the Deathworlders' reactions. They used careful hand signals and silent gestures to communicate, minimizing noise and avoiding drawing attention. Every excursion required preparation, patience, and precise execution. Mistakes could be deadly, and the humans knew it. As they ventured further, they encountered more evidence of the Deathworlders' intelligence. The creatures had clearly adapted to the terrain, using natural features to their advantage. Paths were subtly altered, traps or diversions were evident in the environment, and signs suggested that the Deathworlders could anticipate human strategies. The team realized that survival would require constant innovation. Each day they improved their tactics, learning from mistakes and observing successes. Commander Harris reminded everyone that cooperation was their greatest strength. "We may be weaker individually," he said, "but together we can outthink them. Observation, patience, and adaptation, these are our tools. We cannot fight them, but we can survive, and we can still find allies." The humans listened, understanding that survival depended on discipline, intelligence, and teamwork. Every small decision had consequences, and each member had a vital role to play. By the end of the week, the humans had adapted to the forest's rhythms. They moved, cautiously but confidently, knowing when to hide, when to observe, and when to retreat. They had learned to anticipate the Deathworlders' behavior, and they had begun to gather subtle clues about the alien civilization they had hoped to contact. Survival was no longer just about avoiding immediate danger. It was about understanding the planet, its creatures, and its hidden inhabitants. The humans' determination had not waned. Though the Deathworlders remained a constant threat, the team had discovered the power of adaptation, intelligence, and cooperation. They had endured their first real challenge and emerged stronger, more aware, and more prepared for the days ahead. Hope was still alive, faint but persistent, and the humans knew that survival and potential alliance would require everything they had learned and everything they had yet to discover. After days of careful observation, strategic movement, and constant vigilance, the humans had grown more confident in navigating the alien world. They had learned to read the forest's subtle signals, anticipate the Deathworlders' movements, and protect themselves while continuing the search for allies. Their hope, which had been fragile at first, now felt stronger. Each small success, a safely completed scouting mission, a new discovery, or a moment of calm, reminded them that perseverance and intelligence could overcome even the most terrifying circumstances. The breakthrough came unexpectedly. While exploring a dense section of the forest near a series of cliffs, Lieutenant Mira noticed a pattern in the faint energy pulses they had been tracking all along. The pulses were no longer irregular. They followed a consistent rhythm, almost like a signal designed to guide them. Mira signaled to the rest of the team, and together they followed the pulses, moving cautiously, knowing that the Deathworlders might be nearby. Every shadow, every movement in the undergrowth could be a threat, but the promise of discovery outweighed the fear. After hours of careful navigation, the humans reached a clearing unlike any they had seen. The ground was smooth and polished, reflecting light in soft, radiant patterns. Structures rose from the terrain, elegant and luminous, their design harmonious with the forest around them. The air felt different here, calmer, almost welcoming. Energy pulses emanated from the structures, synchronized in a way that suggested intelligence, purpose, and awareness. The humans paused, taking in the scene with a mixture of awe and relief. They had found what they had been seeking, signs of the alien civilization they had hoped to contact. At first, there was no immediate response. The humans stepped carefully into the clearing, hands raised in gestures of peace. Mira scanned the area, her sensors confirming that the energy pulses were indeed controlled by intelligent beings. Slowly, figures began to emerge from the structures. They were unlike anything the humans had imagined. Tall and elegant, with smooth, translucent skin that shimmered in the light, the beings radiated calm authority. Their eyes, large and expressive, conveyed curiosity without hostility. Every movement was graceful, deliberate, yet there was a sense of power beneath their calm appearance. Commander Harris took the lead, speaking cautiously but clearly. "We come in peace," he said. "We have traveled far and seek allies. We mean no harm." For a moment, there was silence. The humans waited, their hearts pounding. Then, one of the beings stepped forward and responded in a clear, melodic voice. "We have been observing your efforts. Your perseverance and intelligence are noted. You face a dangerous presence, yet you endure. This shows courage and determination." Relief washed over the humans, tempered by the knowledge that their trials were not over. The alien beings did not offer immediate protection, but their acknowledgement was a form of alliance, a recognition of the humans' resilience and potential for cooperation. The team realized that survival would still require careful planning, but they were no longer entirely alone. They now had partners, observers who could provide guidance, information, and perhaps the assistance needed to navigate the challenges posed by the Deathworlders. The aliens explained that the Deathworlders were a natural part of the planet's ecosystem. Predators shaped by harsh conditions, incredibly powerful and intelligent. They had existed on the planet long before the humans arrived, and their presence was a test of adaptability and skill. Any civilization hoping to survive here would need to respect the Deathworlders' dominance while learning how to coexist with or avoid them. The humans listened intently, realizing that their previous struggles had been preparation for this moment. Each encounter, each observation, and each strategy had given them the knowledge and insight they would need to endure. With guidance from the alien civilization, the humans began to develop strategies that combined their understanding of the Deathworlders with the new information they had received. They learned which areas were safest to traverse, how to interpret the creature's behavior, and subtle ways to avoid drawing attention while still exploring the planet. Every member of the team contributed, combining human ingenuity with alien knowledge. For the first time, they felt a sense of true collaboration, hope grounded in experience, observation, and shared goals. Yet the humans also realized that the Deathworlders remained a formidable presence. Their encounters had taught the humans the value of respect, patience, and careful planning. The creatures were not malevolent in a simple sense. They were part of the planet's balance, necessary for its ecosystem, and extraordinarily capable. The humans had survived through intelligence and cooperation, and now they understood that continued vigilance was essential. Success would not come from dominance, but from understanding, adaptability, and careful strategy. As days passed, the humans and aliens worked together to establish a communication network. Portable sensors were enhanced, paths through the forest were mapped, and patterns of Deathworlder movement were carefully documented. The humans began to feel a sense of belonging, a reassurance that their struggles had meaning and purpose. Bonds were formed, not only between humans and aliens, but also within the human team itself. They had faced fear, uncertainty, and incredible challenges, and now they shared knowledge, strength, and hope. The humans' journey had transformed them. What had begun as a desperate mission for allies had become a profound lesson in endurance, intelligence, and the value of patience. The challenges of the Deathworlders had tested them, revealing both their weaknesses and their strengths. The arrival of the alien civilization was not a simple solution. It was an opportunity, a chance to apply everything they had learned in ways that could ensure survival and growth. By the end of this chapter of their journey, the humans had achieved what they had set out to do, even if it was not exactly as they had imagined. They had endured the threats, adapted to an alien world, and earned the recognition of a civilization far beyond their own. Their hope for allies had been realized, tempered by the reality of the dangers they had faced and the challenges that remained. They had survived, learned, and discovered that perseverance, intelligence, and courage could open doors even in the most extraordinary and perilous circumstances. As the sun set over the alien forest, casting golden light across the shimmering structures, the humans stood together with their new allies. They looked out over a world that had tested them in every imaginable way, yet offered new possibilities for survival, growth, and understanding. The Deathworlders remained a reminder of the planet's power, a challenge they would never forget. But for the first time, the humans felt that they were not merely surviving. They were part of something larger, a future shaped by hope, collaboration, and the courage to endure.